Welcome back to another episode of Latin America Review. This is our second ever episode, and we got the honor to have with us a friend from Nicaragua, a Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs in the Greater Caribbean. And Camila, unfortunately, is not here with me in La Paz in Bolivia. She's actually in Brazil at the moment. How's it going, Camila? How's Brazil? Could you tell us what you're doing there?
Yeah, so I'm in Sao Paulo for a 3-day alternative media encuentro meeting with a bunch of alternative Latin American anti-imperialist outlets that's going to take place at the MST school, the Florestan Fernandez, here in the state of Sao Paulo. And so we're doing a lot of interviews outside of that as well, trying to get a picture of what the situation is in Brazil heading towards the October presidential elections. But we wanted to get in with Nicaragua early in our program, so we're really happy to have Michael with us today. From Managua, Nicaragua, we're joined by Michael Campbell. Thank you so much for being with us today, Michael.
Thank you very much, Camila and Ali, and thank you to Causa Chung News for the opportunity of this interview.
So just a short time ago in December, Nicaragua grabbed headlines with the decision to cut ties with Taiwan and build an alliance with China. What was the analysis made by the Sandinista government that led to this decision, and how would you evaluate the decision so far?
On December 10th, 2021, Nicaragua and the People's Republic of China took the decision to reestablish diplomatic ties. These ties, keep in mind, were severed in 1990 by the government of Violeta Barrios de Chamorro. So between 1990 and 2016, Nicaragua didn't have diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China. However, the Frente Sandinista de Liberación Nacional, the National Sandinista Liberation Front, and the People's Party of China have maintained close ties during this entire period. So the decision to recognize the One China principle falls in line with what the Frente Sandinista and the People's Party of China have been promoting throughout our history. The Chinese Revolution and the Nicaraguan Revolution share a lot of commonalities. We are both working to ensure the eradication of poverty, the eradication of hunger. We both work towards guaranteeing the empowerment of our societies and our people. And we both work at the international level to promote the principles and purposes of international law and the Charter of the United Nations. We work together to promote a world of multipolarism instead of having to continuously deal with the excesses of US hegemony and imperialism, or European imperialism, in the developing world. So the decision felt completely natural to Nicaragua to move towards this. During the pandemic, only the People's Republic of China and Nicaragua were the countries that were able to achieve economic growth. And it's because we have such similarities in terms of our priorities for development, the ideologies that our respective parties and governments promote. So it felt completely natural. And since we began reestablishing ties, strengthening the bonds between the People's Republic of China and Nicaragua, we have quickly moved to become a part of the Belt and Road Initiative, the international, the Global Development Initiative, the Security Initiative, and so many other opportunities for cooperation, for trade, for joint development between both of our peoples, our parties, and our country. So my take on this would be that the decision to move towards reestablishing ties was completely natural. It has felt very well. And both of us are working towards strengthening a relationship that is based on mutual respect, cooperation, and solidarity. And since then, almost on a daily basis, we're in touch with the government of China. Our parties are working together. China promotes a broad-based relationship with all its countries, which is a watershed in comparison to the type of relations that the United States and Europe have promoted in Latin America and the Caribbean. For example, the People's Republic of China works closely to strengthen cooperation between universities, cooperation between cultural movements, cooperations between sports teams, cooperation at different levels. This is completely different to the way that the United States and Europe have worked throughout our history. As you know, the United States and Europe have always tried to privilege working with the local oligarchies, trying to maintain a relationship with the local oligarchies to the detriment of our peoples. And the local oligarchies have always been readily available to give up our sovereignty in exchange for privileges and perks. So working with China has been, since we reestablished relations on the 10th of December of 2021, has been a wonderful experience. And we are sure, we are already beginning to see the benefits of having taken that fundamental decision at the end of last year.
Nicaragua also just recently announced, Foreign Minister Denise Moncada announced the exit from the OAS, which is a 2-year process, but it'll be joining the likes, Nicaragua will be joining the likes of Cuba and Venezuela. I think that just happened in April, am I correct? The announcement.
Nicaragua formally denounced the charter of the OAS in November of 2021. The process that you have to follow is you denounce the charter, and then a 2-year period has to take place before you can officially exit the organization. We have been counting the days to leave the Organization of American States. And the decision comes because throughout the history of Latin America and the Caribbean, and since the creation of the Organization of American States, the OAS has been an instrument of the Monroe Doctrine. The OAS has seen, since the 21st century, at least 8 coups d'états. This is the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela in 2002, Haiti in 2004, Honduras in 2009, Ecuador in 2010, Paraguay in 2011, Brazil 2016, Nicaragua in 2018, and also Bolivia in 2019. So, and even before that, the OAS has been endorsing interventionisms, coups d'états, and aggressions against the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean. We could not stand by and continue to be a member of an organization whose sole purpose is to intervene in our own national internal affairs. So the decision has been was in the making for a while, but during the elections of 2021, the OAS came out outright seeking to delegitimize the elections in Nicaragua, and even going so far as to say that the elections in which the Frente Sandinista came out victorious weren't legitimate elections. That as we would say, was the drop that caused the glass to pour over. So Comandante Daniel Ortega immediately instructed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to begin the process of withdrawing from the OAS. What happened in April of 2022, this year, was that we decided to no longer participate in any of the meetings of the Organization of American States. So we no longer participate in the Permanent Council meetings or any other meeting. We decided to not participate in the summit. We're grateful for all the countries that were saying that Nicaragua should take part in the summit, but our decision was made far before. We had decided that that organization, that Ministry of Colonies, that Washington Club was nothing more than an organization that works towards seeking to limit the liberties, the freedoms, the opportunities of development of the people of the region, and in particular of Nicaragua. So we closed the OAS office in Nicaragua, and we decided to no longer participate in any of the meetings. And something very interesting has happened since then, Camila. Our relations with all the Latin American and Caribbean countries have become stronger. And this is proof that the OAS was only serving as a platform to attack Nicaragua, to attack Venezuela, and to attack Cuba. So by not being in this organization, we are able to strengthen our relations directly with the Latin American and Caribbean countries, which are our sisters and brothers. So I think this is just further proof of Nicaragua's strategic and right-based decision, sovereign decision to withdraw from this organization that has only caused suffering for our peoples.
Absolutely. And so can you give us a little bit about the idea behind, Nicaragua's participation in CELAC, which is an organization which does not include the United States and Canada, and what the Sandinista government hopes to achieve there?
Well, besides denouncing the OAS Charter in November 2021 and withdrawing in 2022, Nicaragua has committed itself, like I mentioned before, towards multipolarism. And in the case of the hemisphere, we are working tirelessly to strengthen a common position of Latin America and the Caribbean regarding all the challenges that the world is facing. The CELAC, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, is not an alternative to the OAS. For us, the OAS is what it is, the Ministry of Colonies. CELAC is a forum in which the identity of Latin America and the Caribbean can be adequately presented. It represents our own priorities, our own perspectives on the issues, and it allows us to reach consensus regarding things that are so important, such as the fight against poverty, the fight against inequality, climate change, migration, economic growth, all these issues. The OAS, because it's a Ministry of Colonies, was focused almost exclusively in interfering in our internal affairs. While in CELAC, all the decisions are taken by consensus. In CELAC, we work towards creating common positions for Latin America and the Caribbean. And it's time enough. This is something that we should have done from a while ago. And this is the supreme dream of Simón Bolívar and the supreme dream of several of our national heroes, from Sandino in the case of Nicaragua to José Martí in the case of Cuba, and so many others that sought to promote greater unity, greater integration between the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean.
So, obviously we saw a lot of coverage in the mainstream media over Nicaragua, in 2018, and even, it reemerged in the headlines around the election time. We have, the outlets like Reuters, AP, AFP, they decide to talk about countries only in a negative light. But, something that we try to do at CalSat News, just like Telesur and Prensa Latina, and some of the most important outlets in English on Latin America, is, highlight some of the other things that happen the rest of the time. And right now, I think it's really interesting to see Nicaraguan officials attend all these different meetings in other countries. Like you said, the reestablishment of relations with China. There seems to be a lot of interesting things going on to strengthen those relations overseas. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of what's going on in that regard?
Well, since 2007, Nicaragua has sought to establish or reestablish ties with all the countries of the world. And since then, we have widened, we have increased the amount of official diplomatic relations that we have, especially in Asia, Europe, and in Africa. During the Sandinista government of the 1980s, we had strong ties with Africa, for example. Those ties were lost during the neoliberal period of 1990 to 2006. So Comandante Daniel and the Government of Reconciliation and National Unity have prioritized establishing or reestablishing ties with these nations. And this means our foreign relations are very straightforward. We promote relations that are based on mutual respect, cooperation, and strict adherence to the principles and purposes of international law and the Charter of the United Nations. This has allowed us to cooperate with countries on a myriad of issues, and it has also increased our trade opportunities, our investment opportunities. Right now, Nicaragua is performing very well in terms of trade, and that's because we continue to export to the United States and to Central America, but now we're also broadening our exports towards Europe and towards Asia and Africa. These are fundamental priorities, and I think that we are able to do this more effectively because we're no longer in the OAS. The OAS was this platform that created division for Nicaragua, and also the OAS was the platform that was repeated by some of the mainstream media platforms to attack Nicaragua. So by not being there, there's no talking point about Nicaragua. You have to face the facts. You have to come to Nicaragua, and in Nicaragua you'll see that we're doing excellent work in the fight against poverty. We're doing excellent work in promoting health and education. I think we're the top performer in vaccination against COVID-19. Right now, 95% of our population has been vaccinated. In food sovereignty, right now when the world is facing a climate crisis, an energy crisis, and a food crisis, Nicaragua, in terms of food security, is right now at about 90%. That means 90% of the food that our people consume is produced locally. And we have the goal of achieving 100% food security by 2030. These are important achievements. We have 77 hospitals, main hospitals all over the countries. We have over 70,000 doctors, nurses, and health personnel all over the country. While the United States is facing a shortage of powder milk for babies, Nicaragua has milk banks. These milk banks the health system encourages mothers to donate milk, and we create these milk banks to guarantee that the newborn babies will have access to milk. This is something that we consider to be revolutionary, and you can see that on the ground. Nicaragua is the safest country in Central America and probably in all of Latin America and the Caribbean, and we are moving forward in benefit of our people.
That's amazing. So I guess you began to touch on this, but let us know, what are some of the priorities of the Nicaraguan government today, given the global energy and food crisis that we're witnessing and feeling, in many countries around the globe?
Well, like I mentioned before, for Nicaragua, the top priority since 2007 has been the fight against poverty and to ensure human development for our people. That is our revolutionary mandate, the fight against poverty in all of its manifestations. In terms of climate change, the climate crisis, as you know, in 2020, Nicaragua was struck by two major hurricanes, Eta, which was a Category 4 storm, and Iota, which is a Category 5 storm. Both of these hurricanes in the space of 10 days. So we are one of the most vulnerable countries in the world to the effects of climate change. So our priority regarding the crisis is to create resilience. We work with the developing world to try to get the developed world to stick to their commitments regarding mitigation, adaptation, and losses and damages, of course. But Nicaragua, we can't stay there and wait for the developed world to assist us. We're working every day to create the necessary conditions on the ground for families and communities to be prepared for the worst effects of climate change. During this hurricane season, it is estimated that we're going to have to deal with between 6 and 10 hurricanes. We pray for the best, but you prepare always for the worst. In terms of energy, the price of oil has increased exponentially, and Nicaragua is not. We have to deal with this. Every Friday, our Ministry of Trade informs of decisions that the government of Nicaragua makes to guarantee that the increase in the price of oil doesn't pass on to the families and to the small farmers and to the local fishermen. And so we cover all the costs. 100% of the price increase of oil is covered by the government of Nicaragua. This is millions of dollars that can be used for the fight against poverty or for human development, has to go to paying off the cost, the increase in the cost of oil. But by doing that, we guarantee that the cost for Nicaraguans at the pump remains stable. The cost of gas at homes remains stable, and that small farmers and local fishermen have what they need to continue to produce and to continue to produce well. We also subsidize the oil, the energy the oil that is used for producing electricity. So that way, that's another way to make sure that the families don't feel the effect of the increase in oil. And well, finally, the food crisis, as I mentioned before, Nicaragua, we have invested so much to improve the way that we produce. We're working mainly with small farmers, and we guarantee small farmers access to quality seeds. We guarantee that they have the equipment that they need to produce well. We help them to access financing, and also we're helping them to access international markets, to export. So it's been a hard work, but the Sandinista government has been committed since 2007 to ensure that food security is something that is maintained. And as I said, today we stand at 90% food sovereignty. This is we're a best practice for the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, not only for Central America and Latin America, but for the world. Nicaragua producing 90% of everything that the families consume. And we need to, our goal is to reach 100% sovereignty by 2030. So we're taking the necessary steps to guarantee that our commitment, our revolutionary commitment to fight against poverty and ensure development for our people continues.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was an amazing, very concise, short summary and overview of everything that I've learned in the last few years. And I'm really looking forward to hearing, some more information on these different areas, specifically, the achievements in the area of women and equity and equality and tourism and all sorts of other things and some programs we have planned coming up. So thank you so much, and we'll hand it over to Ollie. Michael Campbell, Minister Advisor to the President for International Relations and the Greater Caribbean. Thanks so much for being on with us.
So now we're in the cultural section of the show, where we like to talk about history, music, art of the countries in question, because I think in Latin America, culture tells us so much about the history and politics of a country and helps us to really understand what's going on. And the structure of this will be such that I'll be presenting an imaginary dinner party to you, Michael, with a starter, main, a drink, and background music, all from Nicaragua. And then at the end, you're going to evaluate it, give it a score out of 10 if it's good, or if it's not so good and not very authentic. So before we start, however, I think our listeners will have noticed that you speak very good English and that your accent is not the same as other Latin Americans who speak English as a second language. So, could you tell us a little bit about Nicaragua and the different cultures that exist in Nicaragua, the different languages, and how it is that you speak such good English?
Well, I think this is a similar situation to many Latin American and Caribbean countries, but well, Nicaragua has its particularities. The Caribbean coast of Nicaragua was before was known as the Mosquito Coast, the Mosquitia, and the Mosquitia was a monarchy, a kingdom that had 15 successive sovereigns during a period of more or less 200 years. So the Mosquitia had its own constitution, its own production systems, its own currency, its own flag, and it had its own relations, especially with the greater Caribbean, with the Caribbean islands and countries. The sovereigns of the Mosquito Coast were crowned in Jamaica, and the Mosquito Coast had the status of a protectorate with Great Britain. So the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua didn't form a part of Nicaragua, wasn't a part of Nicaragua until 1894. So that's why, while on the Pacific coast of Nicaragua, you have mainly a Catholic Spanish-speaking population, right? On the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua, you have 6 different ethnic groups. You have the Rama, the Mayagna, and the Miskitos, which are the original inhabitants of the land, our indigenous peoples. You have Afro-descendant communities. You have the Garifonas and the Creole. I'm Creole. And you have the Mestizos from the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua, which are peoples that came from the Pacific coast and emigrated towards the Caribbean. So along with these ethnicities, you have also a variety of different religions. You have, for example, on the Caribbean coast, you have Catholics, but you also have Moravians, you have Baptists, you have Anglicans, and the indigenous peoples also have their own beliefs. So that goes to add to the diversity. And in 1987, with the reform to the political constitution of the country and the creation of the autonomy law, all the languages of Nicaragua are considered official. The 6 languages of the ethnic groups of the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua are considered official. And on the Caribbean coast, you have established 2 autonomous regions. You have 20 municipalities, 23 indigenous and Afro-descendant territories. This is an area that is about 35% of the population of the country, an area that is greater than the size of maybe El Salvador and Belize put together. And this territory is completely administered by the indigenous and Afro-descendant peoples, and any public or private project that's developed within that region has to go through a process of a free, prior, and informed consent consultation process. So Nicaragua is how can I say, it's a melting pot of different religions, different languages, different cultures, and that helps. That is what helps to show our creativity in the way that we handle our public affairs, our public administration. Camila just mentioned tourism, and I think that's an area that I didn't speak about enough. But we're not only focusing, for example, on sun and surf, although we have beautiful beaches on both our coasts. We are also speaking about cultural tourism, religious tourism, historical tourism, and all different areas of tourism that we can focus on. But Nicaragua is a melting pot of diversity, and we believe that these currents of our identity, the Nicaraguan identity, which is made up by the European, Afro-descendant, and indigenous currents, helps us to foster greater creativity, greater unity in when we address any issue. Any issue has to go through this mixed identity that we have, and I think it makes us better for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on to this dinner party I'm going to be hosting for you and some of the other ministers, perhaps, of the state. And I wanted to start with, always for starters, in South America, we often have soups, caldos, etc. But I wanted to start with some finger food, tostones. Here in South America, we call them patacones, but in Nicaragua, called tostones, green plantain, fried, smashed, refried, and it can have different toppings on as well. Is that considered a food you can have as a starter in Nicaragua, or is it more of a snack? And what are the best fillings to have, or toppings rather, on these plantains?
Oh my God! Well, okay. We usually the tostones go along with cheese very well, but we also do pico de gallo. Yeah, pico de gallo is tomatoes and onions that are chopped up. Well, some people add other things to it, but that's a nice topping to put over the tostones. You can also use beans. In Nicaragua, and I think that's something we differ from some of the Latin American countries. We produce mainly red beans. We not only produce, we produce and we export a lot of red beans, but either frijoles molido, grind and refried beans can go very nicely on top of the tostones, and then you can sprinkle a little cheese and you can accompany that with the pico de gallo, and you have an excellent starter.
That sounds delicious. Absolutely. So I wanted for our main dish, I wanted to go for something from the Caribbean, since that's what we've been talking about. Something that looks absolutely amazing, rondon. Can you tell us what is rondon? And I believe it's from the Caribbean coast. Am I correct?
Yes. I think the Creoles and the Misquitos are the ones that have focused a lot on rondon as their main dish. Now, depends where you go. If you go to Bluefields, you might find rondon. Well, first let me explain. Rondon is cassava, breadfruit, green plantain, cooked along with it could be meat, and in this case it would be salted meat. In the case of Bluefields, or it can be wari meat, which is wild boar. In the case of Bluefields, right? And all of this is boiled in coconut milk. And you accompany that with rice and beans, which is also made with coconut milk. Coconut milk is a fundamental part of everything. So if you're in Bluefields, you'll have rondon, which is made out of salted meat, or wild boar. If you go to Pearl Lagoon, then the rondon would probably be made with turtle meat, especially with the turtle fins. Nicaragua doesn't export turtle meat, of course. That is consumed only locally in the indigenous and Afro-descendant communities. But in the Pearl Lagoon Basin, we didn't have a lot of cattle, so that was a main source of protein, and that is used a lot in the rondon. And if you go to Corn Island, then you'll have a seafood rondon. So the rondon would be accompanied maybe with shrimp, crab, or lobster. So it depends where you go. Even our rondon is full of diversity. So you start with your tostones con quesos with beans and pico de gallo, and then after that you sit down and you focus on your rondon, which could be any one of the three varieties that I mentioned.
And am I right to say that it has qualities that can revive those who were perhaps worse for wear the night before and give energy and vitality for the day?
Well, there are all kinds of beliefs, and being a diplomat, I'll say that all of them are correct. Rondon, we believe in rondon. Rondon helps to strengthen you. It gives you vitality. It's something that coconut milk is rich in nutrients, and of course, fish and meat and all these type of red fruit, bananas and things are very good to keep you healthy. I don't know if it's a good idea to eat rondon every day, but
Too
it's a
powerful.
very nice and powerful meal.
And I think even the name, right, comes from English, from the English-speaking Caribbean communities. To say "run down," and then in the way it's pronounced in Spanish, "rondon." So is that the origin that it has an essentially an English name?
I'm not sure, and I don't want to bite my tongue by giving you an answer that I
Okay.
shouldn't. But I know we. I think the idea comes from it's a you're boiling down everything. Everything is boiled down in this mixture of coconut milk, and I think the name comes from that. But
Okay, excellent. So obviously, we're going to have a drink accompanying this, and the drink is going to be one of Nicaragua's most famous exports, which is a lovely bottle of Flor de Caña. If, I think Flor de Caña, especially in Latin America, here in Bolivia, is seen as one of the top quality rums anywhere in the world, especially certain labels of it. In Nicaragua, is it considered the best of the best, or are there ones that are considered even higher quality than Flor de Caña? Because here, Flor de Caña is seen is almost as a symbol of status. If you come with a bottle of Flor de Caña, like wow, that person, can spend.
well, let me see. You know Nicaragua is a top producer of sugar. Right now we have been able to export something like 1.8 million tons of sugar. I think that was the that was the amount that we exported in 2021. And along with sugar, you have the opportunity to produce rum. And I have to tell you unequivocally that the best rum in the entire world is Flor de Caña. No doubt about it. The nicest rum in the world, and definitely a nice drink of Flor de Caña accompanying your rondon is the way to go.
Absolutely, and yeah, at least here in Bolivia, giving someone a gift of a bottle of Flor de Caña is one of the best things. Camila and I we gave Evo Morales a bottle of Flor de Caña for his birthday last year, because Camila had just come back from Nicaragua like a week before, and she brought back a few bottles of like the better quality, like the higher end tickets ones, and yeah, we gave that to Evo on his birthday in the Tropico, and he's very appreciative. Yeah, it's always Flor de Caña, best of the best. And so
I'll make sure that the next time I see you and Camila, that I'll have a bottle of Flor de Caña for you.
yes, please, yes, please, yes, please, and one forever as well. So yeah, and I think every good dinner party as well has some music playing in the background. I think it sets the mood. And for a long time, I've been very interested in this sort of Nicaraguan, I would call it, say, mariachi cumbia, I guess, groups that dress in sort of mariachi style of clothes, certain instruments, but they're essentially playing cumbia.
Daniel, Daniel, el pueblo está con él. Daniel, Daniel, el pueblo está con él.
Well, I think let me see if it depends where you are in the country. Again, like of course the folklore, which is the one that you're describing with the traditional outfits and playing the marimba and all of those things. You can probably find expressions of folklore with certain nuances all over the country. But you can also see a lot of salsa, a lot of cumbia, a lot of merengue. And this is because of our relationship with Latin America and the Caribbean, of course. And we also produce a lot of local music. If you go on the Caribbean coast of the country, you'll listen to country music. You'll listen to salsa and soca also. So Nicaragua is quite diverse also in terms of our preferences in music. And and we have a few very talented local artists that are that are doing well nationally, and several that have done well internationally too. Nicaragua also produces what we call, and this is very good for the Frente Sandinista. No, we produce a lot of música testimonial, and these are the type of music that we use to, like Daniel Sequeda and our different revolutionary hymns that we produce periodically. Some people like to joke that the Frente Sandinista always wins the elections because we have the best testimonial music. It keeps the people inspired and it tells a story. So I think these things are very good, and it's part of the Nicaraguan identity.
Fantastic. So we're going to have that playing in the background. So let's run down what we got. We got starters, tostones, main meal, rondon. We've got a bottle of Flor de Caña on the table. What's the best way? Just on the rocks, or are we adding some lime? What's the most popular way in Nicaragua?
Well, that is the decision for the one who's
of each
drinking.
guest.
Of each, but my particular opinion would be that if it doesn't say on the bottle that you should mix it, then it should be on the rocks.
Okay, fantastic. So we're going to have a bottle of Flor de Caña on the table, and we're going to have mariachi cumbia playing in the background. So what is your evaluation? A score out of 10 after this wonderful evening that we've had?
I think you can't go wrong with the menu or with the drink. And if you have that nice music playing, then you probably will get some people dancing even. So I think you have everything set to score a 10 on a lovely evening.
Fantastic. So yeah, my on the previous episode about Venezuela, our interviewee only gave me a 9. So now that I've got 10, I'm improving with each episode. So thank you so much, Michael. This Michael Campbell, Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs in the Greater Caribbean in the government of Nicaragua. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. This is the second ever episode of our new show. So you'll be one of our guests of honor in this first season. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you very much, Ali.